We'll save that for next time. Make sure that's on the call tomorrow. How is everybody doing today, right? This is Thursday, right? Is this Thursday? I've been referring to everything as today and yesterday, so I'm having trouble keeping track of what day of the week it actually is, but it is Thursday, and it's another action-packed day. So we got some music going, hopefully got your heart rates up. I didn't see enough people dancing, so we'll work on that again tomorrow. I got some faith in you guys that we can do that. And I'm super excited to have our guest here today. First of all, what did you guys think of yesterday? Was Jason okay? Jason was all right? Yeah, Jason did okay. I am working on a way to get that video shared with you guys. So I do have it, trying to get it posted to a Facebook site. But he was great. And today we've got one of my favorite bold coaches here, Jake from Colorado, Montana. Jake? Colorado. He just did our recent bold in Morristown. He was fantastic. And today he's going to talk with us about mindset and some strategies that him and his team are doing to lead generate and defy the odds and still write business in today's shifting market and coronavirus epidemic. Jake, welcome.
Good day. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic. A lot of them are muted. And just as a reminder, guys, if you want to use speaker view to just see Jake or me when we're talking, you can. My chat box is open. If you have questions for Jake, you can put it in the chat or raise your hand and we can unmute you. So, Jake, I mean, you guys are dealing with a lot of the same stuff out in Colorado that we are. You're not allowed to show properties, correct? You're not allowed to have any appointments outside the home. So,
correct. Last week, our attorney general came out and said if they find out that realtors are showing property, doing inspections, or even hiring an appraiser, that they would put us in jail for a year.
Wow. So on the par with New York, I believe in New York, they're not risking to throw them in jail because New York jails are already overcrowded, keep in mind. You have less criminals in Colorado, but they are imposing fines on any realtors that do that in New York. In fact, in New York, they set up hotlines.
Oh, yes.
For realtors to call and tell on other realtors if you're out there doing the activities. So, so you've got a pretty thank you, Bev Kalinka. She reminded us all, but smoking pot is legal in Colorado.
Yeah, we can leave the house to get pot and liquor.
Just don't show houses.
Just don't show houses.
Get drunk and stoned, but don't show houses. So let's start with a little bit of mindset. Because I know you're a big mindset guy. You're a bold instructor. So you guys, what you focus on expands, right? Tell me some of the things you're doing and teaching people to do in order to make sure we stay right up here in the middle of this chaos.
And here's the thing I'll tell you. You may have heard Gary say this. You've probably heard the regional director say this. Coaching is key right now. And there was a moment, I'm human just like everybody else. 2 weeks ago where I woke up in a funk. Anybody else woke up in a funk? Raise your hand if you woke up in a funk before. You're like, I am not going to work today.
I don't wake up in a funk in the last 24 to 48 hours.
Right? And that was me. I was like, man, what in the world? And luckily I had a coaching call with my coach, Debbie Frapp.
Nice.
And we got on the phone. The first thing she says is, how things going? And I answered, and she said, that's not the Jake I know.
Wow.
Right?
She noticed it because she knows you.
Right away. And what she did, though, is she really helped me mind shift what was going on. And it was a really cool technique. And that's what I'm going to share with you today, because it's a simple 3-step process. And it's really been helpful. I've taught this to the agents here in Denver and that I work with. And it's really easy. She says the first step is spiritual, right? It's your soul. You got to deal with your soul, your inside first. And we'll talk about that. She says the second is mental. And she says the third is physical. So it's 3 steps. It's your soul, it's your spiritual body, it's your mental body, and then it's your physical body.
I want to do a quick public service announcement, Jake. I know some people on the call may not be into the energy concept. Don't leave. But I want you to do this. We talked about it. Don't leave, because he shared with me some of the things he's doing to generate listing appointments and got 5 listings yesterday. So all of that information is coming up. So just so you may not connect with one part, you don't want to miss all the stuff we're talking about today. So the 3 points of energy are spiritual, mental, and
physical.
Okay.
And she says, when you wake up in a funk, go to gratitude first. And this was the coolest part of what she said with gratitude, because many of us will go to gratitude, right? I'm guilty. In Bold, we teach, write your 5 gratitudes every day. Awesome. I sit down. I'm grateful for my wife, for my kids, for my house, for this, for that, right? And yet we never really take it deeper. So what she forced me to do on this call is she says, what are you really grateful for? And I said, you know, as crazy as it sounds today, I'm grateful that I have a home, a great home that I get to stay safe in. And she said, okay, tell me more about it. Wasn't that it? And she said, no, we're going to take this gratitude to an emotional place. And the reason why she said we take it to emotional is she says, logical make you think, emotional actually make you act. It'll change how you respond. So she continued to ask and dig. And the challenge there is if you're grateful for whatever it is, for the water you get to drink this morning, why? What is it about that water that you're grateful for? What is it about the home that you get to live in today that you're grateful for? What is it about the family you get to spend more time with today that you're grateful for? And start to list that out, really dig deep in it. And she says, what'll start to happen is you'll create that emotional energy that then can lead into a mental shift and change. So allow the gratitude to go deeper than just a word or a statement. And then she says, when you get to the mental place, and think about this, have we all had negative thoughts? Yes or yes? Especially recently. I mean, it happens. And sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Sometimes it's during the day. Sometimes it's that panic that shows up. And what she said is, number one, what's the lesson? What's the lesson we're supposed to learn in it? So slow down and ask yourself, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn in this moment? And she said, number two, learn that lesson, and then how do we reframe it, right? So I'll give you an example. I've got real estate teams, I've got brokerages, I've got rental property, all sorts of stuff. So last week when I was in this funk, it was right at that time where 47 tenants were supposed to pay their rent. We found out 25% of them went unemployed.
Ouch.
Right? I've got 2 market centers that we're working on getting the PPP stuff set up for and all the other stuff. I've got a real estate team that we're working to make sure that we can survive through this, a property management company. So the whole world was coming in. And she asked me, she says, what are you supposed to learn from this? She said, what needs to show up in your world so that all of this pressure wouldn't make you freak out? And I said, $1 million in my bank account.
I thought you can go back to pot and alcohol.
Pot and alcohol. That's it. And I said, $1 million in my bank account. She says, so really what you learned from this lesson is that if you have liquidity in these moments, it creates stability.
Nice.
Right? Going back to the statement of cash is king. And I said, yeah. She said, so how do we reframe that? Now knowing what you know, how do we start to build that liquidity moving forward in today's market? It was just a great reframe that allowed me to start to think differently, right? Yep. So you got the mental, the gratitude, the spiritual, the gratitude piece that fill your soul.
Well, I like what she did with the gratitude. I like what she did with the gratitude, Jake. She just didn't let you say, I'm grateful because of X. She made you go deeper and really get in it and get around it and describe it. It's kind of like when you're going through a big why visioning.
Oh, totally.
You've got to build a very strong picture for what it is so you feel more emotionally connected to it.
I stopped her and I asked if her point was to make me cry that day because I was sitting in my family room. Right? And yet it really created that emotional state, which allowed me then to go to the lesson and be willing to go to the lesson side and not stay in the victim side.
Nice.
On my mental piece. She says, so now that you're here, physical, your next step is to take action. And I said, okay, that's easy, right? Many of us are good at taking action.
Sure.
And yet she said, no. Before you start taking action in your business, I want you to take an action of service.
Okay.
And I said, okay, what do you mean? She goes, I don't care what it is. It could be making your wife breakfast or going upstairs and taking care of your kids, making them lunch for the day. It doesn't matter. Do an act of service, because the act of service is then also going to shift your energy so that when you get back into action with your business, you're approaching it with the right energy, with the right focus, with the right fervor, and then others will receive it in that same way.
Nice. And again, doing good for others makes you feel better. That's why these customer caring calls we've been talking about have been so amazing. I spoke with an agent this morning that did a customer call for customers she hasn't talked to in years, and had to remind the customer who she was. And it was awkward in the beginning because she hadn't done a good job of keeping in touch. But once they got through that, they spent 25 minutes on the phone and learned a lot more about each other. So again, doing good for others helps you feel better too.
100%. 100%. Well, and it was really interesting because as we started to have this conversation and bring this into our team and into the agents that we coach with the market centers, what we found is as we started to spin that conversation into what can we do, right? We're really good at jumping into the what can we do conversation. We started to really work this process through every day with our team. And then we flipped it in. And I stole this great idea from the Lokins, from Lance and Karina Loken. They shared with us a couple weeks ago that they sat down with their team and they asked them one question. And the question was this: what are 20 ways that we can go digital today and have an impact on our business? And what Lance shared is he said, look, the first 10 or 12 are easy, right? We've all gone here. Digital showings, digital photography, digital this, digital closings, digital that, right? All those basic stuff. He said where the gold really showed up was in 15 to 20. So he said, push to get to 15 or 20. And as we did that with our team, what we found is what our team and what our conversations are all based on. So my business partner, Roxanne, is a MAPS coach. She coaches agents. I obviously do bold. And we come from a very heavy educational side of our business. And in 2008, when I got in the business.
Oh, perfect timing.
It was awesome. The reason why we closed 87 transactions in 2009, 87, was because we slowed the conversation down and just educated the public. That's all we did. So we sat back and said, okay, we went down this process. And what our team said, one of the best ideas they came up with was, how do we virtually educate the public on what's going on today? So we started making just short vignettes, video series, 2 minutes or less, about what is forbearance. You know, you're hearing about it. You can push your mortgage payment off for 12. Well, great. What does that mean? We would interview our mortgage brokers that would talk about it. We would do a 2-minute vignette. If they wanted more information, click here. You know, if you're familiar with Command and how that all works, you can set up the landing pages and you track it all and you grab all the information. It's awesome. And so that's what we started to do. And yesterday morning, we sent out to 2,000 of our sphere a video, a 2-minute video about forbearance.
You know Corona, do you? You okay? You healthy?
I came back to dry Colorado and it's all. So what is forbearance? What are the questions to ask your lender before you start skipping payments? And what are the things you want to know? And so it was just a simple conversation. I can tell it to you here. It was the dialogue of, we're seeing 3 different types. And the main type is this: you go and they say, okay, I'll give you 3 months off. You get a 3-month break. However, in the 4th month, you have to repay the 3 months plus the 4th month. So you've got to come up with 4 months of payment.
So the forbearance isn't making it go away. It's just delaying everything to a big balloon payment.
And here's the reality. If you can't make that payment, how are you going to make up 4 payments 4 months later?
Yeah. So forbearance is not a sexy thing that people think of it as.
No. And unfortunately what's been happening is everyone's saying, just go do it. Just go do it. And then here's the flip side. We're watching interest rates drop. Our lenders are saying that they're thinking it could go as low as in the high 2s right now.
Yeah. So Jake, I want to interrupt you for a second because I want you to share the results quick of what happened in the video, because I think when people hear what your results were, they're going to probably tune into what you're saying a little bit deeper.
So here were the results. 54 people clicked through to get more information. Of those, there was a secondary click that said, hey, book a private consultation. 13 booked a private consultation yesterday. 5 of those turned into listings.
So guys, he's going to go through the mortgage forbearance video again that he did. He sent out 2,000 of the short video, got 54 leads, 13 appointments and 5 listings signed.
Signed.
So you guys want to hear more about what that video looks like? Okay.
So it's really funny because it's such a simple concept, and yet what we realize is there's such a lack of information right now for the public.
Yeah.
Think about it this way.
And what information out there is cloudy and unclear at times.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we found is that through education, if we can educate folks and help them get the information they need, it creates trust. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if they're not getting it from another resource, they're getting it from us. Who do they trust? Us. Mm-hmm. So it creates that trust and confidence in us. And then from there, it builds the relationship, solidifies the relationship, especially in a market like today, where we can say, hey, look, it's different. We're all learning together. So if you're willing to learn with us and work this process together, here's what we've set up to make sure we can take care of you at the highest level possible today and help you maximize your return on your investment. And by the way, there's a whole nother conversation around that. And yet that's where they said, okay, I'm in. 5 of them raised their hands, they signed, and off they went. Here's the reality. The other 7 didn't need it. The other 8 didn't need it at this time. However, where do they sit? Now they're in our follow-up, and they're in that database. So we're going to continue to follow up with them every couple of weeks, make sure everything's good, make sure they still have their jobs, ensure that those pieces are moving together, right? And yet here was the simple video. It was, number 1, this is what we're typically seeing. 3 months, great. In the 4th month, you got to pay all 4 months.
Yeah. Okay. And again, if people don't have the money now, not that much is going to change 4 months from now.
If your mortgage payment's $2,000, you're going to skip 3 months worth of payments. That's $6,000 with no late fees, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then in the 4th month, you got to pay $8,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Right now, the other way we're seeing, which is a really good one, is they take those 3 months or 8 months or 12 months or however long they give you, and they tack it onto the back of the mortgage. That's awesome. Your mortgage payments stay the same. It just extends the term. No big deal. The third thing we're seeing is they give you the forbearance, and then they give you a repayment agreement over the course of that next 12 or 18 months. Well, the whole time you're in that repayment agreement, you're in a forbearance. Meaning, if you want to refinance your house, you can't. If you want to get a HELOC, you can't. And we're not sure how all that's going to report on credit. We don't know if it's going to impact them or how it's going to impact them. All those pieces are still unclear. And that's the piece that we don't understand.
So that might take you down a different path with your people. So instead of talking about forbearance, let's talk about where in your life you can save some money. Am I getting ahead of you?
No, you're exactly right. That became the conversation. So then what we say is this, and this is fun. We say typically what we find with homeowners is there's 4 different types of homeowners. So the first homeowner is this. They're cash rich, they've got assets, and they're equity rich, house rich. Well, if you're one of those homeowners, let's talk about what your opportunities will be in this coming 12 months and how to prepare. Let's get you a HELOC. Don't spend it. Don't use it for anything else. At least you have it, because you can get a HELOC when you don't need it. You can't get it when you do. So if you've got a job, let's get you a HELOC. If you don't have a job, guess what? You're not going to qualify. So let's get that lined up today and help you prepare. Number 2 is they're cash rich and house poor, meaning they don't have a whole lot of equity, yet they got a bunch of cash. Okay, what's the right option there? We talk about what their opportunities are. You know what we coach them there to do? Same thing we're getting coached to do. How do we help you reduce your budget? I know you don't feel like you need to do it today. However, let's go ahead and do it, because every dollar you save today is a dollar you get to invest tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And they love it. And you know what's fun about that one is we say, how about we do this? Let's set up a time here in about 3 hours or later on this evening and invite any friends you have that you think would benefit from this conversation. And we'll get 3, 4, 5, 6 families on that Zoom call at the same time.
Nice.
It's an incredible thing that we have the ability to do today, is now do this in mass where we're used to do it one at a time.
Right.
So there's that piece. The third one is house rich or house poor and cash poor.
That's a tougher person to be, which is probably a lot of realtors.
A lot. Well, that's the thing. So what are the options, right? Where do we find the cash? Where do we find the And in those places, what we're talking about is how do we help you save a bunch of money today? How do we cut stuff out of your budget? Number one. Number two, and here's the interesting thing. In Denver, similar to you guys, our average price point's about $550. Well, if you've got 20% equity on a $550,000 house, that according to the banks means you don't have a lot of equity, yet you're still sitting on $100,000. So what if we were to help you sell that property, take that $100,000, go pay 6 months worth of rent somewhere else, pay it up front, and maybe pay 5 months versus 6 because you're going to be able to pay all cash up front, and now you have cash to weather the storm.
So move them out of an equity position into a rental position short term will help them weather the storm. Yeah.
Why? Because what could happen in the end? Well, guess what? Now you come back, maybe you buy the same house on an FHA loan and you're buying it for 15 or 20% less. Who knows, right? So you're buying into a different market, and yet it's a tougher conversation to have. However, what we're finding is the fear in that is that they don't have any cash.
Right.
So if something were to happen, if their world were to burp or hiccup, before you know it, they're in trouble. And now they're missing mortgage payments, and now they're getting foreclosed on, and they don't have access to any of it. And then the other one that we find is cash poor, house rich, meaning you don't have a whole lot of cash assets, but you've got a house, right? And so we're doing the same thing. We're having that conversation. Here's what you can do. You can either take this, get a HELOC, yada, 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 and move on. Now, here's a fun story. We've got two clients right now we're working with. One right now that's currently under contract. She closes next week. They're empty nested. Her and her husband's in his early 60s. She's in her late 50s. Here's the interesting part. They've wanted to invest in property. However, they haven't been able to save and accumulate enough cash to do so over time. They had a hiccup in their job about 6 months ago and defaulted on the mortgage. So they went 30 days late. They caught it back up. So now they don't have the ability to go do a HELOC or qualify for any of it. So here's the next step. We said, well, how much equity is in the house? And she said, I don't know, maybe 400,000. We said, well, why don't we take a look at it and see? And she was right. It was about 4.25. We called her up and said, can we do a financial plan with you? You can say no. However, we've done this for other clients.
There you go. I was waiting for you to drink something. You got to put some hydration in that throat.
I'll keep running.
You're concerning me, man. You're concerning me.
What is this? She says, yeah, let's go. So we sat down and talked with her and her husband, obviously through Zoom. And we said, hey, you got $400,000. What if we were to help you sell the house, access your $400,000 because they couldn't do a loan because of their delinquency, go out, rent a place, pay cash up front, which they did, and they negotiated to pay 10 months and get the last 2 months free. So now they're saving money. You sit on the rest of the cash. And then once this market comes back around and you've got 12 months of seasoning up on-time payments, you go back and we can help you qualify for an FHA loan on a fourplex. You buy the fourplex, you rent the other 3 sides out. Your tenants now are covering your mortgage.
So you just took someone who's struggling during this coronavirus epidemic and the market, and you're completely changing the world by creating an opportunity for them to grow wealth. Now, look, fast forward 3 or 4 years, they now own a fourplex. That's you got that only.
Well, and here's where they got excited. She said, so if I buy a fourplex and it's what, 3.5%, 5% down? I said, yeah. And she says, what, $500,000? I said, yeah. She says, so that's $25,000. I'm still sitting on $300,000. So I could probably go out and buy 2 or 3 more fourplexes, couldn't I? Well, yeah. And she goes, and if those are up and running and cash flowing the way that we anticipate, I could actually retire in 2 or 3 years instead of 10.
So I think the message of this section, I want to go on to that third section I want to talk about, which is, use of technology. The moral of the story is there's lots of different angles to go to here, but by sending out the emails with the video, it got him the opportunity to have consultations, which allowed him to talk about these different options that someone would have. Again, maybe they don't work in your market, maybe they don't work in all markets, but the key is there's another opportunity for you in your market. Maybe foreclosure, maybe it's them buying something that could be a flip down the road. There could be lots of different things to do it. But if we just sit back and say, it's a tough market, let's hide under the sand and wait for it to pass. What Jake is doing is finding the opportunity of the moment, the market of the moment. And again, 2,000 emails with a short 2.5-minute video. I'd love for you to share that video with us if you want.
Yeah, I'll see if I can do it for you.
What's that?
I'll make a note and I'll get it to you.
Awesome. And I will post that on my Facebook page if he lets me. That way you guys can see it. It was 2,000 emails, which turned into 50 some odd leads, 13, 14 appointments, and 5 listings taken. So look at that. So Jake, you also said that you just took 5 listings, but you can't take photos because the state won't allow you to send a photographer in there. So what the heck do you do?
So there's a situation. I'm going to pull up the website. I'll put it in the chat for you. It's called Astro Room, I think is how it's set up. Basically, it's an $80 camera. And what this camera does is it allows us, it's like a Matterport. It connects to the back of your client's phone. They can do a Matterport style video. And through that, it all gets downloaded back to you, to your site. We send it to our photographer. They pretty it up because they can do that. And then they mail the camera back. And the reason we chose to go this route is because with this camera, it's only $80. So in the event that it gets broken, in the event that something happens to it, it's cheap. However, it does a good job. Now, it's not Matterport, yet it does a great job in today's world. And here's the other sales pitch. Think about this. I've got 5 kids. I was joking around with my wife the other day, and I said, hey, we're that same client that has $400,000 in equity. Why don't we sell and go play this game? And she laughed, and she said no. So we're refinancing instead. And yet, I said, well, think about it, honey. We only have to clean the house once for the pictures, and we only have to clean the house once for a final walkthrough.
Yeah.
I mean, when in history can I sell my house with 5 kids in it and only have to clean it twice?
Right. Opportunity of the moment.
I posted the website where you can find information about the camera and all that information, and yet, again, there's ways for us to work through this. Our attorneys have helped us with the contract to make sure that we are within regulations from the state, so that we can follow those regulations. However, it's just finding opportunity. It's not I can't anymore, it's how can I?
And that's the point here. It doesn't matter how good the market is, how bad the market is. There are still people that need to buy and sell. And it's up to you whether or not you want to push through the challenge to find a way to do it. So you send them this camera attachment for their phone. They do it themselves, send it to your photographer, and he makes it look good.
Well, and they love it. They totally do. Someone mentioned that you can't do advanced rent in Jersey. Just set it aside in a bank account.
Yeah.
So there's ways to work through that and find those opportunities.
Yep.
So yeah, that we put together this camera. The other thing we started doing is we started having our potential clients order the inspection ahead of time. So before we get the signed agreement, before we do all that, they order a full inspection with sewer scope. In Colorado, we also do radon. So whatever other additional tests you'll need to do. And the reason is we've negotiated with our inspector that they'll be paid at closing by the seller in the event that the buyer doesn't purchase the inspection.
Okay.
Here's what we're finding. Every buyer so far, we've done 12 of these, every buyer we've had so far has purchased the inspection because of the completeness of the inspection. And it's also being done by an inspector that's well known in the area. So they're buying the inspection, the inspector's getting paid a couple weeks later. The coolest part is when they go under contract, they have all the information. And it's a very clear transaction to get it completed.
So you're saying you order the inspection before you list, because once you list, there's a red flag if you have an inspection that goes through.
Exactly.
Then you're violating the law in that situation.
Correct.
Right.
So we allow the seller to order the inspection prior to listing.
So again, guys, we keep saying, will people, won't people? There's ways to still make things happen no matter what the market is. He's in a market much like New York where they can't leave the house for real estate. They're still finding ways to list homes, to sell homes, to do home inspections. They're just doing it a little bit outside the box. Well, what are some other things that are working? We're in a minute or two then. Guys, if you have any questions, put some questions in the chat box. If you have any questions or thoughts, or whether it's this or anything else. I'm also going to ask Jake to give us a quick 1 or 2 minutes on the new bold pivot. I had a question that came up. So the seller's paying for the home inspection, and then the buyer has, so no one's paying for the home inspection up front.
No one's paying for it up front.
The home inspector is doing it for nothing. In the process, the buyer gets it, and the buyer can choose to buy it.
Correct.
And if the buyer doesn't buy it, the seller pays the home inspector at closing.
Exactly. And the reality of it is we'll cover that in the event that it doesn't get covered, and every time it's been picked up by the buyer.
Awesome. So anything else you want to share? Any last tips? Talk about Bold Pivot for a second.
Yeah, the biggest thing, and this is what I'm so excited about in Bold Pivot, is the reason why we're pulling these ideas is because as Bold coaches and senior coaches, what we're doing is going out and interviewing and having these conversations with other top teams across the country. And then we're implementing the idea to see how well it actually works before we bring it to you. So Bold Pivot is going to be 2 days a week, 2 hours a day. It will be recorded, and the video will be posted. It'll be live streamed, and it'll be posted on the Bold Pivot Facebook page. So for those who have signed up, if you're not a member of the page, go check it out. You can find it at Bold Pivot May 2020 in Facebook. There's a ton of content and a ton of scripts and dialogues and a lot of videos already being posted there for you, so you can start to use that information today. However, it's going to be 2 days a week, 2 hours a day. It'll be live streamed, and then there's going to be Monday and Friday another additional 2 hours of coaching, live coaching. So myself and two of the other head coaches are going to be running those live coaching sessions those 2 days a week. So for those who have questions or having concerns, having challenges, having opportunities, show up and you'll get live coaching included in this process. On top of that, you get access to the Facebook page, which we're going to continue to dump all this information into. That's where the materials will be placed as well.
Awesome.
And here's the fun part. You get all of it. All of it. Gary wanted to make sure it's affordable for everybody. It's $99.
$100, $99.
$99. I'm going to put the link here in the chat so you guys can find that easy.
And I don't want to talk about other market centers. Please check with your market center as far as what the policy is for my market centers. What we're doing is we're reimbursing you that $99 on your next closing. So if you have a closing, if you pay for it today and you have a closing coming up at the end of the week, we're going to reimburse you at the end of the week. So we're going to give you an immediate reimbursement on your very next closing of that $100.
That's awesome.
We don't want anything to stand in the way of people taking advantage of that opportunity. So if everyone could say yes, Limban says
yes. If you're in, throw a quick yes in the box. Let us know. If you're going to sign up today, throw a quick yes in the box. Here's the thing. The reason why I would say sign up today is you get access to that Facebook page. We've already posted, I think, 5 or 6 videos of scripts, content that are all pertinent to today's market. The conversations that are being created right now are all about how do we list digitally? How do we represent our buyers digitally? How do we do virtual walkthroughs? How do we do all these pieces to ensure that we create success in our market today?
Awesome. Now, I saw a question here. It's same as regular Bold. We can have recruits on that, correct? Recruits can sign up?
You can have recruits come in. You can have your spouse come in with you if you want. You can have your vendors. If you've got vendors that would like to be a part of it.
Mortgage, home inspectors.
Home inspectors, you name it. It's open to everybody.
Because all these techniques are going to work all of our ancillary industries. Call your attorneys if they want to get on it. Call your home inspectors, your insurance people. It could be, these techniques help every industry. So awesome. Well, Jake, you've been awesome. Guys, if you do me a favor, if you've got an aha out of today, if you got an idea that you said, wow, that could be really cool for me to try, can you post in the chat box real quick? I think, well, this was different, a little bit calmer than yesterday. Jason Abrams is crazy intense. Well, this is calmer. I love the information and the action items we got out of this, and I love that mindset piece, Jake. Any final thoughts? I have 2 things left I want to share with everyone, some of the upcoming classes, upcoming guests, and then share with you a funny video, of course, because we always try ending these things with a little bit of humor. So any final thoughts you want to share before I do my 2 last points, Jake?
Last thing I would say is check yourself. The biggest thing, we know where we're sitting. We know what's going on. If you wake up in a funk, we have the ability to fix it. Yep. And we can fix it by walking through the simple gratitude process. We can fix it by making one simple phone call and change our complete day. So as much as it may be challenging sometimes to get up, show up, and spit up, just do it. Because today, your clients need you, and they need the information you have access to more than ever.
And if you still are not out of it, jump on a 2 o'clock marketcenterzoom.com call with us, and we'll help get you out of it because we're focused on motivation, education, inspiration. So as far as more education and motivation, tomorrow we've got Travis Thom. Is that his name, Beth? Aaron? Emily?
Yes.
Travis Thom, who's a social media guru. Tomorrow we'll be at 1:30, not 2. Because he was not able to do 2 o'clock. So social media guru tomorrow at 1:30. On Monday at 2 o'clock, we have Lab Coat agents, Tristan and Nick Baldwin. We'll be here on Monday at 2 o'clock. We've got the Vice President of Growth for Keller Williams Realty, Matt Green, on Wednesday.
Yeah, Mike Bastian on Tuesday. He's going to talk about managing your expenses.
Mike Bastian, who's a brilliant guy when it comes to financials, personal financials and business financials, will be on the call with us on which day?
He'll be Tuesday.
On Tuesday. So we've got some great people coming up and more guests that we're trying to get lined up as well. We put together a list today of another 7 or 8, including Cody Gibson, Chris Suarez. I reached out to Gary Keller, asked him to grab 15 minutes for us. We're working on a bunch of guests that we're trying to get on this call for y'all.
If there's anybody you want to see too, throw it in the chat and I'll reach out to them.
Yep, Kathy, these calls are about motivation, education, and inspiration. That's what we try bringing to the call as often as possible. So before we wrap up, let's get a little bit of humor. Emily, what do you got for us? Again, you got to find a little bit of time.
Narito na. Wimpo! Okay, pivotara. Pomelo?
So again, the point of the story there, as I've talked about time and time again, I'm confident we're going to get through this successfully because much like the Minions, we're a team. And great teams don't fail. They get it done. So Jake, thank you so much. All of you guys, thank you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We're all in this together. We're going to come out on the other side a much stronger, a much healthier group because we're working together on this.
My pleasure. Rock out, man.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you, Jake.